Today, we are going to do a 3-round Packers mock draft and prepare for the Packers to pick none of these guys. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. Oh, it's mock draft season, baby. Grossi. And we are gonna, I figured, do something a little bit different, because usually around this time, I'll do one or two Packers mock drafts and just go through all 7 rounds, or, I'll do 1 or 2 full mock drafts. But I figured we'd do something a little bit different here, considering the Packers have 5 picks in the top 100 for the 2022 NFL draft. So I figured let's do some 3-round mocks. We'll do 1 or 2 of these. We'll use the different platforms because they all have different algorithms and who's going to get picked and all that great stuff. And so we're going to rock with this one today. This would be a dream draft for me if this actually worked out this way. Before we get to that, I want to do a big shout out and thank you to a brand new patron, and that is Adam Berry. A big shout out and thank you to you. And so for this first mock draft, I know people have their preferences, or PFF or the Draft Network. There's a number that they could use. I use the Draft Network for this one, so the next 3-round mock I'll use something like PFF just to kind of change it up a little bit, as I know guys will go earlier or later depending on however they programmed it. So with that being said, let's start off with the first of the Green Bay Packers picks, and that is at number 22 in the first round. And oh boy, he was right there, and I said, yes, he's being taken. And that is Chris Olave, the wide receiver for Ohio State. Now, I'm going to go off and just say this real quick. I doubt Olave makes it to 22, but in this he did. And so I said, well, yeah, I'm going to take him. The reason I don't think he's going to last, as we talked about in this week's video, is this guy is really good. He's a speedster. He can stretch the field. He has great hands as well, and can kind of just be an all-around great receiver. So I don't know if he's going to make it out of the top 20, because you do have some wide receiver needy teams there, like the Saints, for example. There's rumors that the Cowboys really want to trade down and potentially draft this guy. There's lots of options here. But if the Green Bay Packers wind up having this guy fall to 22, I think that this is a no-brainer. It gets them that speed over the top that Matt LaFleur is looking for. He's a fantastic player and can definitely be a wide receiver 1. Then with the second pick at number 28, I have the Green Bay Packers going inside offensive line with Kenyon Green, arguably the best guard in the entire draft. And there's a reason why I'm picking Kenyon Green, because you could look at this and be like, Tom, you could go with edge rusher, you could potentially go with safety, but I was looking at this at a mix of need and also best player available, and I think Kenyon Green checks a lot of boxes for what the Packers are looking for in an offensive lineman. And the big thing that stood out to me was his versatility, and that this guy has played on every single position along the offensive line except center. Does that remind you of anybody that we have? Elton Jenkins, even though he can play every single position. But the fact that they could utilize him at guard, or they can swing him out to right tackle potentially. I know that a lot of mocks are looking at him of potentially just being a guard just because of his size, but if he has that versatility that allows other guys on the offensive line to potentially move around, we don't know where Elton Jenkins is going to play, whether he's going to go inside or whether he's going to be for right tackle. You have Yash, who could potentially swing out to right tackle. There's going to be competition there, and with a healthy David Bakhtiari back, we should have left tackle all figured out. The point is that you can never have too many good offensive linemen, and depth here is something that you need to have. Right now, if the Packers lose 1 or 2 guys like they have the past couple seasons, they're going to be in trouble. So I wouldn't be surprised with one of their top 3 picks, the Packers go offensive line. Then with their first pick in the second round at number 53, I got George Pickens, the wide receiver from Georgia. Again, he was another guy we mentioned who potentially could go in the first round. There are some ACL concerns, even though he was able to return for the end of the season, and he still ran a damn impressive 40-yard dash. But the reason why I like Pickens here, I like picking Pickens. name jokes, is because he's a perfect complement for Olave, in which you basically got your speedy guy out of the way, the guy who could stretch the field, and you got George Pickens, who is a very solid, sturdy wide receiver. The guy is 6'3" and absolutely sacrifices his body to go up and make those contested catches. Wide receiver is obviously the Packers' biggest need here, and so in this particular iteration of this mock, I have them addressing it quickly by getting two really good guys in their first 3 picks and being able to have flexibility for the rest of the draft. Then with their second pick in the second round at number 59, I have them addressing defensive line here with DeMarvin Leal. And this is a pick that I could definitely see the Packers making earlier on in the draft with one of their first 3 picks, addressing the defensive line, getting Kenny Clark some help. I know that we brought in Reed, but for them to spend a premium pick on defensive line and just make that pass rush even better, I love everything about it. And this guy from Texas A&M, I'm impressed with him. Last season had his best season of his collegiate career, had 8.5 sacks, 12.5 tackles for a loss. And when watching some of his tape, I know he struggled against Alabama, but there is just a lot of raw power there, and this guy is an athlete. And I think that's the most impressive thing, is that he actually can be very versatile. He can make the tackles inside, or he can be a pass rusher as well, as demonstrated by his 8.5 sacks. And just have a pick spent on this position, I think is going to be beneficial. You do have guys like TJ Slayton who are on the team that I know the Packers are going to be looking to see a jump from him, but I don't think you can go wrong with getting a very athletic defensive lineman here and just helping that pass rush even more. And with their third round pick at number 92, I have them going with Damari Mathis, a defensive back from Pittsburgh. And when you look at him play, there's definitely some rough edges that are there. The thing that stood out to me the most is, one, he can play as a safety, or he could transition into being a slot corner, which is something we definitely need. On top of that, he also has special teams experience. I think it kind of makes sense for them to go after a guy who definitely can help the team, even if it's on special teams immediately, who then can transition to potentially being a safety depending on how Darnell Savage does, or he could potentially help out in the slot. And I know we do have some great corners like Rasul Douglas, of Eric Stokes, you have Jair Alexander who can play everywhere, but to have a dedicated slot guy as well, I think Mathis checks those boxes. While he's not the biggest guy on the field, he is a pretty darn good tackler. And so putting all those things together, I said, why not spend a third on him? But that was this iteration of a 3-round Packers mock draft. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. If it fell this way, I'd be very happy. The other positions I could see them targeting early could be edge rusher, for example. They could do defensive line a little bit earlier, or they could even go safety or corner. But let me know what you think. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or TomGrossiComedy, all social media, see down below. Check out podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout and thank you to all the patrons over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy and the YouTube members. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.